Hey, you lit.
What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Saturday, September 28th, 2024, and we are back with another live here on the Tony Rain Reloaded channel. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to go ahead and hit that like button, hit the share button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell twice to be notified whenever I upload a new video or go live. Shout out to everybody in the chat, all of the mods, all of the members. Shout out to everybody on the replay game who may not be able to catch this live for whatever reason in real time. Shout out to everybody on Patreon. Shout out to everybody on X, Instagram, Discord, all of that good stuff. Let me go ahead and acknowledge who is here so far, and we will go ahead and get into today's topic. We got Hacksign KT, Jerry Bedford, Denise Scales, Derry B, Light Visions, Miss Jalen PR, Hacksign. I'm going to acknowledge your super chat in a second. Dark Titan, Don P, Bills Fan, Robert Brown, Ruvenensi Felicia, Lewis, Knowles, Deneen, Grant, and Brother Man to you. Shout out to you. And shout out to Hacksign KT for the super chat for kicking us off. I greatly appreciate it. All right. Before we actually get into all of this, Shout out to everybody that sent me like well wishes and my concern yesterday because I didn't go live. A lot of people thought that the reason why I didn't go live yesterday was because I was tired. No, that wasn't the reason. The reason I didn't go live yesterday is because the season is about to start kicking back up at my place of employment. So there might be a couple of Fridays where I won't be able to go live because of that, because all of the stuff happens in the evening. So that's why I didn't go live yesterday. So there's going to be a couple of Fridays where that is. Trust me, if I was tired, I would have probably implemented that somewhere in the post. So if I just put up there that, there's no stream on on a Friday, that's probably what it is. But if it was something else, I would have let y'all know as well. But I'm fine. I'm rested, all of that good stuff. But that's the reason why I didn't go live yesterday. And shout out to Derry B for the $4.99. I appreciate it.
You ain't got to be a dope boy to have money.
All right, so this is going to be another one of those heavy topics, so I probably won't drop the link today. As a matter of fact, today's live and tomorrow's True Crime Sunday are both going to be heavy streams, to be quite honest with you. But after tomorrow, the streams that I do have lined up, they're more lighter, they're more tame compared to what it is that we're talking about right now. But shout out to everybody that's here right now in the chat. But today we're going to be talking about Marcellus Williams and how I believe that the state of Missouri failed that man. So in case y'all are unaware, Marcellus Williams is or was, and this by now, unfortunately, I have to speak of him in past tense. This black man who was sentenced back in, I believe, 2000 or 2001 for the murder of a woman by the name of Felicia Gale. He was there for several years. He was on death row. They basically put him to death about last week after people were fighting because they said that this man was innocent. He maintained his innocence and a whole bunch of other things. There was a lot of moving parts with this story. And when I heard about this story initially, it made me immediately think of Troy Davis. Now, Troy Davis back in 2011 kind of fell into the same boat as Marcellus Williams, and the outcome was the same as well, but it was just in a different state. I mean, the stories were very similar. So that's just the summarized version of it, but we're going to go over the actual story itself because I actually found the story, and we're going to go through it as well as an article and the last statement that Marcellus left before he was put to death. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and share the screen, and we're going to go through this part right here. And I found it on Wikipedia. Typically, I wouldn't go on there, but Wikipedia had the full rundown of the case, well, the murder itself. And it's called The Murder of Felicia Gale. So this is her right here in the picture with her dog. She was only 42 when she was taken out. So it says Felicia Leisha Ann Gale, born February 6, 1956, and passed on August 11th, 1998, or was murdered on August 11, 1998, was an American journalist murdered during a burglary in her gated community in University City, Missouri on August 11th, 1998. Gale, a 42-year-old reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, was found dead in her home, having been stabbed up to 43 times with a butcher knife taken from her kitchen. Marcellus Williams was charged with Gale's murder. Prosecutors presented evidence that included testimony of Williams' former cellmate, girlfriend, and a man who testified to Williams selling him Gale's stolen laptop. Other evidence included Williams' possession of items stolen from Gale's home. In August 2001, Williams was sentenced to death. On appeal, he raised several issues, including claims of errors in evidentiary rulings, jury instructions, and victim impact testimony. He also challenged the use of his prior criminal history and alleged improper prosecutorial comments during closing arguments. And I always said that if they have to do something like that, then that means they don't have much on the person for that case, that they have to go back into their past criminal record that has nothing to do with the case at hand in order to get them. The death sentence was controversial, as DNA evidence had been claimed to prove his innocence, and Gale's family repeatedly stating they did not Williams executed. The court rejected these arguments, finding no abuse of discretion by the trial court. The Missouri Supreme Court rejected Williams' appeal, concluding that it was neither disproportionate nor influenced by prejudice. They concluded that there were sufficient statutory aggravating circumstances, such as the brutality of the crime and Williams' prior convictions. The court affirmed both conviction and the death sentence. Williams was then executed on September 24th, 2024, amid ongoing protests. And by the way, there was a lot of people who put out like endless petitions. I mean, there were mountains of petitions put out there. Of course, they met the threshold. All of them were ignored. That says right there that the courts was dead set on executing this man. At that point, they didn't care. All what's the word that I'm looking for? All roads leading to getting this man not to be executed was pretty much headed towards a dead end thanks to this court system. Felicia Ann Gale was born on February 5th, 1956 in Rockford, Illinois, where she was also raised. She graduated from the University of Illinois with a degree in journalism before working as a reporter for the St. Louis Dispatch, where she stayed until 1992. She left the newspaper to pursue more philanthropy and volunteer work, which included mentoring and tutoring disadvantaged children. In 1979, she married Dr. Daniel Picus, who led the interventional radiology department for the Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. Marcellus was born on December 30th, 1968 in South Bend, Indiana. At the age of 5, he and his mother, along with his 2 brothers, moved to St. Louis, Missouri. Growing up in a troubled and impoverished household, Williams faced early exposure to alcohol, drugs, and guns and was subjected to violent sexual and physical abuse from family members. His family abandoned him, and criminal behavior and substance abuse were prevalent in his family. After becoming a father and marrying a single mother that had a daughter, Williams was profoundly affected by the death of his older brother in 1997, who had served as a father figure. That same year, he burglarized a home and was later incarcerated for a donut shop robbery. In 1998, while in prison, Williams dedicated himself to studying Islam and writing poetry. So look at how they literally wrote out his story. Hold on, let me go back up there. So listen how they wrote out his story right there. So basically to say, don't feel anything for this dude whatsoever. In other words, they're saying, oh, with knowing all of this, we made the right decision. Even if there was no evidence or DNA evidence to back up the claim that he did what he was accused of. Gale's body was discovered by her husband at her home on the evening of August 11th, 1998. Police arrived to the scene at around 8 p.m. Officers found Gale in a fetal position with her left side covered in blood. She had been stabbed up to 43 times. A large butcher knife was found lodged into her neck. She also had stab wounds to her back, thigh, and 2 more in her neck. Authorities described defensive wounds to her hands and arms, including a large gash on her right elbow. Her purse, jacket, and her husband's Macintosh computer were stolen. Investigators noted in the initial police report that this came amidst a burglary spree in the neighborhood. In May 1999, Gale's family announced a $10,000 reward for information, leading to an arrest and conviction in the case. 2 individuals, Henry Cole and Laura Osero, named Marcellus Scott Williams as the culprit. Cole received a $5,000 reward for his testimony, while Osero did not request any reward for coming forward. Williams had an extensive criminal record. Cole volunteered that Williams had made a jailhouse confession to him when they were both in jail on charges unrelated to the murder. Cole had already been released before volunteering his information. Williams had started serving a 20-year sentence for robbing a donut shop. Laura Asaro, the girlfriend of Williams at the time of the crime, gave testimony that Williams had confessed to her in detail what had happened. Asaro testified that she found a purse with Gale's identification in Williams' car. She also testified that she saw scratches on Williams' neck, blood on his shirt, and a laptop in his car. Now, this is all statement right here coming from his girlfriend at the time, which was compatible with news reports. She is said to have provided details that had not been mentioned in public accounts of the crime, a point contested by the Innocence Project. Prosecutors described physical evidence at the crime scene itself as inconclusive, as a shoe print, fingerprints, and hair found at the scene did not match Williams. A knife found at the scene had traces of DNA, but due to the killers wearing gloves, it only matched those of the prosecution team members who handled it after it had been forensically tested and found to have no fingerprints on it. A search of Williams' car turned up at a St. Louis Post-Dispatch ruler and a calculator that had belonged to Gale. A laptop stolen from Gale was also recovered from a man who testified that Williams had sold the victim's laptop to him. Williams was convicted of first-degree murder in 2001 and received a death sentence. So the next not categories. The next part of it says death penalty, dates, and stays. Initial death sentence and appeals. Williams was held on death row at Potosi Correctional Center after his trial. He maintained his innocence in the Gale case until he accepted an Alford plea of guilty in August 2024. His case was appealed unsuccessfully several times. He was first scheduled to be executed by lethal injection in 2015. In appeals, his defense produced evidence that DNA taken from the knife at the scene revealed an unknown male profile, later revealed to belong to the male prosecutor who had handled the knife. It did not match that of Williams. Nevertheless, Williams was rescheduled for execution on August 22nd, 2017. Questions continue to be raised as the state Supreme Court would neither hear the new DNA evidence nor stay the execution. The prosecutor said they were confident about the case despite the DNA, as DNA evidence had never formed any of the basis of the conviction. And shout out to Ozzy Edwards for the 10. He said, so YouTube, I guess saying black is against company guidelines. Hey, what happened? Did something happen to your comment?
When you're successful, you got new friends like Benjamin, Ulysses, and my favorite, Woodrow.
Ozzy, did something happen to your comment? Now let's see, where was I at? Okay, it says the prosecutor said they were confident about the case despite the DNA, as DNA evidence had never formed any of the part basis on conviction. Governor Eric Greitens issued a last-minute stay of execution that day. The governor initiated a board of inquiry to examine the new DNA evidence and other aspects of the case. The board was headed by Carol E. Jackson, former federal judge of the Eastern District of Missouri, and consisted of 5 retired federal judges to review the case. It subpoenaed both prosecution and defense. The DNA evidence and new analysis did not match that of Williams. It was later revealed to belong to the prosecutor who mishandled the knife after it was seized as evidence. My thing is this: why were they touching on evidence without any gloves? If you know that this is heavy, hardcore evidence in such a very big crime, why were you touching stuff without gloves? Anyway, the board had hearings in August 2018. Governor Mike Parson was to receive the board's conclusion and make his decision. In June 2023, Parson decided to dissolve the panel of 5 judges without receiving their report and lifted the stay on Williams' execution, as he claimed it was time for the court to make a decision. Later, State Attorney General Andrew Bailey asked the state Supreme Court to set a date for Williams' execution. In August 2023, the Midwest Innocence Project filed a lawsuit stating that the St. Louis County prosecuting attorney is on record as stating he has convincing evidence of Williams' innocence. The Innocence Project alleged that the Missouri Attorney General's office had a record of dismissing DNA evidence that points to an accused person's innocence. On January 27th, 2024, before I go any further, when I think of that, it reminds me of Mark Furman, aka Mr. I Plead the Fifth. On January 27, 2024, St. Louis County prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell filed a motion in the St. Louis County Circuit Court asking the court to vacate Marcellus Williams' death sentence. A 2021 Missouri law allows a prosecutor to intervene where there is information suggesting a convicted person may be innocent. He cited potential ineffective assistance of counsel, apparent bias in jury selection, and potential weakness of the police investigation. He asked the court for a hearing to consider the new evidence and other aspects of the investigation and trial. The new evidence consisted of a special prosecutor's review of the case, including the findings of 3 independent DNA experts who unanimously concluded that the male DNA of the murder weapon was not Williams. Rather, it belonged to an investigator and assistant prosecuting attorney who had handled the murder weapon without wearing gloves. What did I just say? What did I just say? I said, why did y'all handle that evidence, that glove, without wearing your gloves? I just said that. That was reckless on their part. A hearing was scheduled for August 21st, 2024 to determine his innocence. However, as DNA evidence had never formed any part of the basis for Williams' conviction, a motion to vacate was not granted. On June 4th, 2024, Williams was again scheduled to be executed on September 24th, 2024. On July 2nd, the Circuit Court of St. Louis County, Missouri, scheduled a hearing for August 21st, 2024 to evaluate the supposed evidence of Williams' innocence. On July 12, 2024, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that his execution would move forward despite the pending lawsuit to overturn his conviction. In the court's opinion overruling the case, Justice Zell Fisher ruled that they do not have the procedural authority to withdraw the execution order at this time. On August 21st, 2024, Williams accepted a plea bargain offered by the prosecution to commute his death sentence to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The prosecutors argued in favor of Williams during the hearing, pointing out that the DNA on the murder weapon was not his and that they had duly considered this fact before offering him an Alfred plea to vacate his death sentence. However, the state attorney general Andrew Bailey opposed this decision and wanted the execution to move forward as scheduled. Now, I want y'all to put your memory cap on right quick. Who is Andrew Bailey? I want you to think about this. What case or situation happened this year? And he was basically displaying his anti-blackness with that. Think about it. We talked about it. It was a big situation that happened earlier this year. I want to see who's going to get it right in the chat. And shout out to the 110 in the chat. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Denise gets the little gold star. Kaylee Gaines. Y'all remember Kaylee Gaines, right? Y'all remember her. He was the one that felt that Marnice DeClue should have gotten a jail sentence. A little teenager who was defending herself against Kaylee Gaines. That's Andrew Bailey. That's the same Andrew Bailey. I tell you, I made sometimes, well, it's interchangeable for me. I can sometimes, I'll remember a face but not a name, but I definitely remember that name. If I didn't remember his face, I definitely remembered his name. Yep, that is the same Andrew Bailey. So now seeing his name attached to that and him saying, oh, it's going to move forward as scheduled, that doesn't surprise me now. The Missouri Supreme Court blocked the plea deal agreement on the same day, and Williams' execution date remains September 24th, 2024. A hearing was scheduled to consider Williams' claims of innocence. The final appeal on September 12th, 2024, St. Louis County Circuit Judge Bruce Hilton rejected Williams' appeal, stating that the counsel was rehashing their arguments from previous appeals, all of which have been rejected multiple times by the state and federal courts, and ordered that the execution should move as scheduled. On September 24th, 2024, Parsons denied Williams' clemency, and the case was reviewed by the United States Supreme Court hours before the scheduled execution. The Supreme Court denied the request to halt the execution, although Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson stated that they would have granted the request. Despite pleas from the public, on September 24th, 2024, 55-year-old Williams was executed by lethal injection at 6 p.m. Central Time at Eastern Reception Diagnostic and Correctional Center in Bonne Terre, Missouri. For his last meal, Williams was served chicken, wings, and tater tots. In a statement, the office of Missouri Governor Mike Parson justified Williams' execution, citing, among other things, his prior criminal record and his alleged behavior in prison, which included, quote, attacking other inmates and threatening correctional officers. Williams' last statement was written down and witnessed on September 24th was all praise be to Allah in every situation. Williams was converted to Islam in prison, taking up the name Khalifa and becoming an imam, leading prayer in his cell block. Described as a kind and thoughtful man by his lead defense attorney, Williams also dedicated his time in prison to poetry. So that's the whole case right there. Now, what I want to go over is this part right here, because they touched on it a little bit in what I just read, but this one goes into a little bit further, and that's the fact that the victim's family of Felicia Gale said they did not want Marcellus Williams to be executed, and how they ignored that and did it anyway. Oh yeah, y'all need to, if y'all are not familiar with Andrew Bailey, y'all need to look into him. I don't know what the people in Missouri got to do, but they got to find a way to get him up out of office. So this is coming from the Associated Press. It says Missouri executes a man for the death of 1998 killing of a woman despite her family's calls to spare his life. A Missouri man convicted of breaking into a woman's home and repeatedly stabbing her was executed Tuesday over the objections of the victim's family and the prosecutor, who wanted the death sentence commuted to life in prison. Marcellus Williams, age 55, was convicted in 1998 killing of Felicia Gale, who was stabbed during the burglary of her suburban St. Louis home. Williams was put to death despite questions his attorneys raised over jury selection at his trial and the handling of evidence in the case. His clemency petition focused heavily on how Gale's relatives wanted Williams' sentence commuted to life without the possibility of parole. The family defies closure as Marcellus being allowed to live. Marcellus's execution is not necessary. And it seems to me that her family, based on what this is right here, while I'm sure they never officially completely moved on from that, this right here probably opened up a wound for them, because it's like, we said we did not want this man to be put to death and you ignored it. Do y'all know how dangerous that is? That you will simply ignore the victim's family request like that and just do what you want anyway? Keep that in mind for the future. As Williams lay awaiting execution, he appeared to converse with the spiritual advisor seated next to him. Williams wiggled his feet underneath a white sheet that was pulled up to his neck and moved his head slightly while his spiritual advisor continued to talk. Then Williams' chest heaved about a half a dozen times, and he showed no further movement. Williams' son and two attorneys watched from another room. No one was present on the behalf of the victim's family. So listen to that. Marcellus's son was in the room watching his dad get put to death, further traumatizing him. Imagine, he pretty much grew up without his dad in his life for a crime he probably didn't even commit. And the last time he gets to see his dad alive is by seeing him be put to death. And they said nobody from the victim's family was present during his execution. Now, I don't know if his son wanted to be there or they requested him to be there. Either way, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. The Department of Corrections released a brief statement that Williams had written ahead of time saying, all praise be to Allah in every situation. Missouri Governor Mike Parsons said he hoped the execution brings finality to a case that languished for decades, re-victimizing Miss Gale's family over and over again. No. What re-victimized them is the fact that you went against their wishes of them not executing him and deciding to go ahead and do it. See, in my opinion, when I read stuff like that, They feel like this is a pat on the back for them. They didn't do this for the benefit of that woman's family. They did this for the benefit of themselves. The family specifically said, do not execute this man, and you did it anyway, and then have the nerve to release this statement saying that I hope that it brings finality to the case. It says no juror nor judge has ever found Williams' innocence claim to be credible, Parsons said in a statement. The NAACP had been among those urging Parsons to cancel the execution. Tonight, Missouri lynched another innocent black man, NAACP President Derek Johnson said in a statement. It was the third time Williams faced execution. He got reprise in 2015 and 2017, but his last-ditch efforts this time were futile. Parson and the state Supreme Court rejected his appeals in quick succession Monday, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to intervene hours before he was put to death. Now, let me just say this, because I don't know if this article is going to mention it or not, but I'm going to ask the chat and see if people in the chat know. Which judges from what administrations, notice I said administrations, was appointed on that Supreme Court when it came to this decision? Last month, Gail's relatives gave their blessings to an agreement between the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office and Williams' attorneys to commute the sentence to life in prison. So it was a month ago. So it was very recent. It was fresh. But acting on an appeal from Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, that Cretin office, the state's Supreme Court nullified the agreement. So this is what happened. So again, if you want to know why it happened, look no further than Andrew Bailey. So the family said, do not execute this man a month ago. But when Andrew Bailey decided to jump in and insert his 2 cents, that's what made them proceed with the execution. So if Andrew Bailey did not have a say in this, Marcellus Williams would most likely still be alive. Again, to those who just entered the chat, if you don't know who Andrew Bailey is, he is the Attorney General for the state of Missouri. He was the one that was ready to throw the book at Marnice DeClue for defending herself against Kaylee Gaines back in March. The same exact dude. Are you noticing a pattern here? Because I see some people in the chat don't know who Andrew Bailey is. Now, I don't know if I have anybody in the chat right now who's in the state of Missouri. If you are in the state of Missouri, you most definitely know who he is. Williams was among death row inmates in 5 states who were scheduled to be put to death in the span of a week, an unusually high number that defies a years-long decline in the use and support of the death penalty in the U.S. The first was carried out Friday in South Carolina. Texas was also slated to execute a prisoner on Tuesday morning. It says Gail, age 42, was a social worker and former St. Louis Post-Dispatch reporter. Prosecutors at Williams' trial said he broke into her home on August 11, 1998, heard the shower running, and found a large butcher knife. Gail was stabbed 43 times. When she came downstairs, her purse and her husband's laptop were stolen. Authorities said Williams stole a jacket to conceal blood on his shirt. His girlfriend asked why would he wear a jacket on a hot day. She said she later saw the purse and laptop in his car and that Williams sold the computer a day or two later. Prosecutors also cited testimony from Henry Cole, who shared a cell with Williams in 1999 while Williams was jailed on unrelated charges. Cole told prosecutors that Williams confessed to the killing and provided details about it. Now, let me go back up here because it said that his girlfriend said that he sold the computer. My thing is, why didn't they go out and find the person who he sold the computer to allegedly? Where's the person that he sold the computer to? That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'd like to know. It says Williams attorneys responded that the girlfriend and Cole were both convicted of felonies and wanted a $10,000 reward. They said that fingerprints, a bloody shoe print, hair, and other evidence at the crime scene didn't match Williams. So look at that. Listen to that. So it was something shaky with his girlfriend and this Henry Cole guy. So it was something shaky with their testimonies. I knew something just had to be off, because I'm like, if he sold the computer, why not just go to the person that he allegedly sold it to? And they don't really mention too much about the purse either. Like, what was in the purse? Was anything taken out of the purse? Or he just took the purse? So there it is right there. A crime scene investigator had testified the killer wore gloves. Question about the DNA evidence also led St. Louis prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell to request a hearing challenging Williams' guilt, but days before the August 21st hearing, new testing showed that DNA on the knife belonged to members of the prosecutor's office who handled it without gloves. And that's still, that is some sloppy police work. How in the world do you not wear gloves when you're dealing with a crime scene? You know your fingerprints are going to be all over that. That was just sloppy work on their part. Without DNA evidence pointing to any alternative suspect, Midwest Innocent Project attorneys reached a compromise with the prosecutor's office. Williams would enter a new no contest plea to first-degree murder in exchange for a new sentence of life in prison without parole. A no contest plea is an admission of guilt, but is treated as such for the purpose of sentencing. Judge Bruce Hilton signed off, as did Gale's family, but Bailey, again, Andrew Bailey, appealed, and the state Supreme Court blocked the agreement in order Hilt to proceed with an evidentiary hearing, which took place last month. So as you can see, every time they try to do something to help Marcellus, here comes Andrew Bailey throwing his weight around and throwing himself in the midst. And every time he did, it got overturned. Every time. Like I said, that's how much, unfortunately, power he has. Hilton ruled on September 12th that the first-degree murder conviction and a death sentence would stand, noting that Williams' arguments all had been previously rejected thanks to Andrew Bailey. That decision was upheld Monday by the state Supreme Court. Attorneys for Williams, who was black, also challenged the fairness of his trial, particularly the fact that only one of the 12 jurors was black. Tricia Bushnell of the Midwest Innocence Project said the prosecutor in the case, Keith Larner, removed 6 of 7 prospective black jurors. So much for a jury of your peers. Larner testified at the August hearing that he struck one potential black juror, partly because, listen to this, he looked too much like Williams. A statement that Williams' attorney asserted showed improper racial bias. So you remove someone from being a juror because he looked too much like the person on trial? Where did they do that at? I've never heard that as an excuse. Have any of you in the chat ever heard that before? That you cannot serve on the jury because you look too much like the person on trial? I've never heard that. What kind of kangaroo court was being held back then? Larner contended that the jury selection process was fair. How was it fair? See, so the one black juror on there, and I'm guessing the rest were mainly PC, that was there. And they said it was 7 prospective black jurors of a 12 jury panel. And they removed 6 of them and left only 1 out of 12. And the one of the men got removed as an excuse, and the excuse was he looked too much like Marcellus Williams. So everybody listen out there who hasn't gotten the memo yet, this is what a system of Dub S looks and sounds like. Keep in mind, y'all, this trial happened back in 2001. Let me say that again. This trial happened back in 2001. We're talking 23 years ago. So understand that Dub S was very much prevalent at that time. If you think that it's a new concept, I don't know what to tell you. And it ends off saying Williams was the third Missouri inmate to be put to death this year and the 100th since the state resumed the use of the death penalty in 1989. 100 in the state of Missouri. That is crazy. That is, whew. They said that's the third one this year out of Missouri. Y'all, it's still September. Well, it's the weekend, so we about to go into October. So you got October, November, December. That means they still got 3 months left in a year to throw in a fourth, maybe possibly a fifth. And that's just in the state of Missouri. That's not across the board or for the Midwestern region. That's just for the state of Missouri. I'm still stuck on that one when he says we couldn't put him up there because he looked too much like Marcellus Williams. That is very remedial. I have almost no words to describe that. And like someone said in the chat earlier, watch what's going to happen. 10 years from now, they're going to exonerate him. And it's like, I don't know what's the point of exonerating him now. He's dead. You had the chance to, if you was going to exonerate him, you had the chance to exonerate him when he was still alive, but you want to wait in 10 years after he's cold in the ground to say, oh, by the way, he's innocent. How many times have we seen that before and play out? Like I said, the state of Missouri failed Marcellus Williams. And after reading that, I can see exactly why they failed and how. Stalemate said if they exonerate him, they should be held accountable. Don't hold your breath. I know I won't. And see, the thing is, by the time they exonerate him, many people will have forgotten about this case, about the story in general. Many people who weren't even born or around when this happened. It happened in 98. I was only 9 when this happened. So I was very young. It's messed up. It really is. But anyway, y'all, this is going to bring this stream to a close. I said I wasn't going to post the Discord so y'all could come up today because it's one of those heavy topics. Like I said, this was going to be a triggering topic, and I don't like to drop the link when it's a very triggering topic. But shout out to everybody that came through. Shout out to everybody who's going to catch this on the replay, all the mods, all the members, all of that good stuff. I'm glad that you are here. Tomorrow will be True Crime Sunday. The pre-show will be at 11:30, and of course, we'll be finishing out, or not finishing out. We'll be doing and watching the documentary over there on Rumble tomorrow at 12 noon. It's going to be on Kendrick Johnson. I'm telling you that right now because I'm gonna put the window up after this live shuts down. So that's going to be another triggering topic, but it is true crime, so we are going to go over that and discuss that as well. So be sure, if you haven't followed me on Rumble, to be sure to do that because that is where we will be at tomorrow. Again, shout out to everybody that came through. Hey, auntie, my digital auntie just came into the chat. To everybody out there, enjoy the rest of your evening. We will be back on here tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. for the pre-show and then 12 noon over at Rumble. With that being said, I will talk to you all tomorrow. Be safe and be one.